Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Meredith Lego, and my YouTube channel is all on Ascension science and the expansion of consciousness. And today I'm going to share some information I was able to channel after meditation by connecting to a collective consciousness group on the concept of something that I had read about quite briefly in a book I was reading, but the concept of Keylons. And so the question that I asked when I was connecting with them was basically trying to understand what Keylons are. So I'll kind of get into what I learned. So the answer that I got is dimensional consciousness occurs at all periods and space-time locations in the time matrix. So again, dimensional consciousness occurs at all periods and all space-time locations in the dimensional matrix. This is how consciousness moves through time and space. The relational aspect of this study is one venue into morphing or transfiguring your very genetic imprint and physical form. And I think here what they were basically saying is that because they referenced relational study of this aspect of this study. So I had asked about the concept of Keylon. So what they're basically saying is that there's a relationship between maybe dimensional consciousness and the study of Keylons as one venue into transfiguring your genetic imprint and your physical form. So they go on to say that Keylon codes activate the genetic potential within your DNA by resurrecting higher consciousness fields in your conscious awareness and pulling down the light frequencies or consciousness frequencies into your mitochondria cells. So again, Keylon codes, which to me signifies sort of information. So anytime this group has used the word code before, it's basically like an information that you're getting access to. And oftentimes information can be stored in light and energy, really. So information codes or Keylon codes activate the genetic potential within your DNA. And then they use this word, which I thought was interesting, by resurrecting, which means kind of bringing back, if you will, kind of resurrecting maybe what was already there, higher consciousness fields into your conscious awareness. So in other words, they're dormant, but now you're making them, you're consciously aware of them. And then by doing that, you're pulling down light frequencies or consciousness frequencies into your mitochondria DNA or cells is what they said. And so, I'm not as familiar with mitochondria, so I looked that up. So mitochondria are membrane-bound cells or organelles that generate most of the chemical energy needed to power the cell's biochemical reaction. So it's kind of like the chemical, the energy producer, if you will, of the cell. Chemical energy produced by the mitochondria is stored in small molecules called adenosine triphosphate. And I probably butchered that, but it's also called ATP. So again, this is chemical energy that is produced by the mitochondria that's really stored within a cell, if you will, and that is stored in what's called ATP. So it sounds like it's kind of like the powerhouse of the cell, which is interesting because obviously, if I go back to previous statements, all energy is conscious. Everything is conscious. All energy, we are all energy, and all energy is consciousness. So they're kind of one and the same. So they go on to say that this allows for more production of ATP and layering of additional electrotonal energy units within the light body called Keylons. Keylons group together as dimensionalized crystalline structures of energy. So the way that I kind of read into this statement is that basically there's codes that help kind of activate, it sounds like Keylon production or increased Keylon production within your light body. And it's happening as essentially you're bringing in higher frequencies that are helping to build these Keylons, which are basically crystalline structures of energy. And they're I don't know if they're possibly being built because of more ATP production, but it has something to do with that. I probably have to ask a few more questions in a future session on this one. So that's essentially what's happening. So it sounds like the answer to my question, what Keylons are, they're really crystalline structures of energy. And so when I was hearing this, I was kind of seeing almost like a crystal, if you will, a crystal shape that's come together that essentially has groupings of different energy packets, if you will. And in many ways, this statement, now that I'm reflecting on it, reminds me of an earlier set of channelings I did with an ascended master named Hilarion, in which he was describing the consciousness of very micro or nano units of kind of the building blocks of like matter in the quantum realm. So he called them divas, or he called it divas basically, but he said it was the consciousness of basically atoms and the particles. So it's like the building blocks of matter. So he used the word divas, and it sounds to me like this is synonymous with that. They're just called Keylons. And then they essentially said that as your higher self descends into physical form, your physical form ascends into higher non-physical form. And when the union is complete, you catapult back to source and then into a new dimensional time matrix. So, and I had a download of similar type information before from this group, but essentially, in many ways, Ascension, I always thought it was us, moving up the chain. And I think to a certain extent that's true based upon where we are in physical reality. Like we know that there's higher densities and higher dimensions of consciousness and higher densities that are realms which are basically less dense. In other words, if there's matter, it's matter that's essentially vibrating at a much faster frequency, so you can't see it. It's more ephemeral. It's not as like dense like hardwood. So essentially, you've got. So I thought we were kind of becoming more, a higher frequency, so to speak. But what I didn't know, and what I learned through the process, is that you also have sort of higher aspects of your consciousness, like higher self, and they're sort of at different higher levels. And that, while you're consciously, like we're in this world, we're very conscious of our mental body and everything that's going around us. While we're sort of ascending, we're sort of drawing down those higher aspects of our higher selves or higher consciousness. And so that's essentially descending, but it's descending into our conscious awareness within our physical forms. And at the same time, we as beings kind of walking around on the earth today are sort of ascending our consciousness, and in the process, the two start to meet. And then it sounds like when that happens, you essentially get to a point where you catapult into source. And I think that matches the concept of kind of that that vaulted ascension, or Stargate ascension, I think is what it is. So it's then you go into a hyper charged ascension, if you will. And I don't know if that's, that could be the concept of going rainbow body, where you just sort of, you kind of poof out of physical form, possibly. So that is essentially the answer that I got to what are Keylons, and learned a lot through this process, because what I didn't know was essentially how this is interplaying with the cells in your body, so the mitochondria cells, and then the fact that that creates a higher production of ATP. So interesting stuff. Anyway, so I hope that you found this interesting. I continue to love sharing these with you as I'm kind of learning it myself. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with anybody else who you think might be interested in pursuing this path and starting to go down this kind of awakening journey to higher consciousness. And with that, I will see you in future videos. Thanks. Bye.